Hi guys, it's Emily. I wanted to go over the cosine inverse as well. You will not be asked for your tan measurements, but I just kind of wanted to give you a brief overview of the cosine measurements, specifically the inverses. So I don't know if you remember this, but if you do, by the way, if I say cosine inverse of, let's just make it 1/2, that is saying cosine of what measurement, I'm gonna write that as theta, which just means like a measurement, is equal to 1/2. So what measurement is going to give me 1/2? Well, as you can see up here, I wrote well, you can't really see it because of the glare, but hold on, there we go. The range of cosine is equal to -1, 1. However, cosine will always represent your x measurement, which means that you're only going to worry about where x can vary between -1 and 1. So I would say, remember that this point is 1, 0, and this point is -1, 0, and then this one would be 0, +1, and that doesn't look like a 1. This would be 0, -1. Okay? So I'm saying that the x measurement can go anywhere between -1 and 1. So all we're going to worry about is the space between here and here. Okay? So, I just got marker on my jeans. If you're asked for a cosine measurement, it's either going to be in the first or second quadrant. That's all you need to worry about. Don't worry about this guy, don't worry about this guy. Okay? So now, I don't know if you remember, well, I hope you remember because your quiz is coming up, but all measurements are positive here, and only sine is positive in the second quadrant, which means that if I have a positive measurement, the only square that's going to work, the only situation that I'm going to get a positive value is in the first quadrant, okay? So from here, I'm going to demonstrate here. So cosine, if you remember, is adjacent over hypotenuse. So that means our adjacent measurement, or what's next to theta, is going to be equal to 1, right? Then we know that our hypotenuse is going to be equal to 2. So that if you want, you can use the Pythagorean theorem to figure this out, or you can remember that 1, 2, and radical 3 is going to give us our 30, 60, 90 triangle. So, for example, we know that this is going to be 90 degrees because it's across from the hypotenuse. Can you see that? I hope you can see that. There we go. So, excuse my hands are shaking. From here, we know that whatever is across from radical 3, whatever is across from the smallest angle measurement is the smallest value. So, in this case, the smallest angle measurement is going to be 30, because 30, 60, 90. Then we know that this is 90, because it's always going to be 90. And then this one, if the only thing that's left, it's going to be 60. So I can say that the cosine inverse of 1/2 is going to be equal to 60 degrees. Hope that was helpful. We're going to do one more. I'm going to try and erase this without erasing my work, because even though it's a bad circle, I did try my best. Okay. So from here, what if I asked you to find me the cosine inverse of negative radical 3 over 2? Okay, so first off, your first question, is it positive or negative? So in this case, that's or negative. So in this case, it's negative. We already figured that out. So if it's negative, well, first off, let's write it as a formula that we're familiar with. Cosine of what is going to give us negative radical 3 over 2. Okay. So from here, where's the only quadrant that cosine could be negative in this case? The second quadrant. You can answer me. Second quadrant. Right? So I'm going to draw a little triangle here. Okay. Now cosine, again, is the adjacent over hypotenuse. So we know that our adjacent measurement is going to be negative radical 3 over 2. So it's good, well, it's negative radical 3 rather. for negative radical 3. And the reason this is negative is because it's going backwards. We like things to go left to right. In this case, it's going right to left. So it has to be negative. And the hypotenuse is going to be 2. And the hypotenuse is always positive. So we'll just write that as 2. So now I have a distance between here and here that I don't know the measurement of. But what's going to be across from, you can't see that. What's going to be across from here? So you can fill it in if it makes it easier. Remember, the smallest angle measurement is across from the smallest value. So, and 90 is going to stay here. What angle measurement is across from negative radical 3? Right? It's going to be 60. Okay, so the only one that's left is going to have to be 30 degrees. So here's the thing. You could be asked to find it this way, or I have in color. That was gross. I shouldn't have put that in my mouth. But you could have it going this way. Okay. So if you're asked to find it this way, as in with the red marker, oops, sorry. If you're asked to find it this way with the red marker, remember that this is 180. So what is the distance? There's a 30-degree distance, so what's 180 minus 30? It'll give us 150. So then I would say the cosine value is equal to 150 degrees. Okay, but sometimes they might ask you to find a coterminal. And if they ask you to find a coterminal, that means you're going to do it the other way. So it would be, it completes 180 because it goes from this side to this side, and then you're going to add 30 degrees, right? Because you have from here to here, and then you have a little bit extra that way. Okay, so we're gonna do 180. That's not an 80. Plus 30. Okay, so 0 plus 0 is gonna give us 0. You can't see that. There we go. And then 8 plus 3 is gonna give us 1. Bring that up here. It's 210. So I could also say that this measurement is equal to negative 210 degrees. Now, if I was your professor, I would want you to write in positives because most of the time we use positives. However, it's always good to remember both sides. So if you have any questions, I will be here probably in about an hour, actually. Now that I'm recording these, yeah, about an hour. So let me know if you need any more help. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.